All right. So we are looking at the how many percentage of the holy life is good friendship and how many percent it is not. And we have just discovered, to our horror and shock, that is 100%. And if you're not shocked, it is because you don't really understand. Yeah, you read, sometimes we read and think, oh yeah, 100%, oh, we'll carry on. Actually, it is amazing. It is really remarkable, because understanding this is actually the same thing as understanding the idea of non-self. That's really what it is. So it's a very profound idea, this idea that this is 100%. It means that we are entirely conditioned. That's really what it comes down to. So it's a very important thing to really grasp. And Venerable Piyadasi was saying, well, what about the Buddha? Yeah, maybe it was different for him. But actually I thought about it afterwards, and the point is that the spiritual life only arises when the Buddha becomes enlightened. It doesn't exist before that. The Noble Eightfold Path is part of what he discovers as part of the enlightenment experience. And so the spiritual life, in terms of the Noble Eightfold Path, can only be followed through having good companions, because the Buddha didn't actually know about the spiritual path before his awakening. So I think that is the appropriate answer. I gave a bad answer before. Now the answer has been improved. So there you are. So dependent on those good friends, companions, and associates, you can expect to develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. Without that, you can expect, or you can be absolutely sure that you're not going to develop it. So let us carry on. And how does a mendicant with good friends develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path? It is when a mendicant develops right view, which relies on seclusion, fading away, cessation, and ripens in letting go. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Yeah, so what does this even mean? So, it's not as difficult to understand as you may think. So you develop right view, but right view takes a long time to develop. Yeah, you start off with a certain amount of right view. The Buddha tells you there is rebirth, there is karma, there are enlightened beings in the world, so you have an idea of right view because the Buddha tells you what it means. But right view is not something that you either have or you haven't. Right view is something you develop over time. It becomes more and more powerful as you start to understand what the Buddha was teaching. As you get an insight, as your own meditation deepens, every time your meditation is a bit deeper, you have more right view. You may not even know that, but that's actually what you have. Because when your meditation deepens, you understand more about where real happiness is and where suffering is. You're getting a different view of the world as you deepen your practice. And so this is the thing about right view. It starts out with kind of getting the message from the Buddha, and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until you become a stream enter. And one of the ways that you know that you have right view, that you have an emotional response. You feel, wow, this is important. You feel, wow, this really matters. This is interesting. This is scary. I got to get going now. I got to do this. Wow, this meditation is so much fun. I really enjoy this. That emotional response to the Noble Eightfold Path means that you're starting to understand things. Very often we think that understanding is like an intellectual response. I agree, I disagree, I understand intellectually, but the intellect is kind of cold. The intellect doesn't have an emotional component to it, where you feel drawn to the Dhamma, where you feel the inspiration of the joy and the happiness. But it's that inspiration, that draw to the Dhamma, that emotional thing, which is very powerful, because that is what makes you practice. We practice because of emotions, because of feelings. We don't practice because of intellectual consent or intellectual agreement. It's too dry, it's too cold. It doesn't have that kind of flavor that draws us into things. So this is how, one of the ways you know that right view is really working, because you have that emotional involvement in things. Don't be afraid of being emotional. Emotions are a very important part of the Buddhist path. if sometimes you cry because of the Dhamma, that's probably a good sign. Yeah, it means that you cry from joy, hopefully, not from sadness. Otherwise, it's a negative thing. Yeah. But that's a positive thing. Yeah. Emotions are really important, and so that's how you know. And these emotions and this whole idea of right view and also the other factors of the path are then relied on seclusion, fading away, and cessation, and then ripen in letting go. What does that mean? It means that seclusion is an important aspect for developing the Noble Eightfold Path. Right? Seclusion means withdrawing a little bit from the ordinary things in life. Sometimes it means withdrawing from society altogether, going on a retreat maybe, staying in the monastery for a while, taking opportunities when you have them to withdraw a little bit from the world. Because if you are immersed in the world, if you're fully involved, it's very hard to get kind of enough distance, enough overview to actually be able to understand what is going on. We are too involved with things. It's very hard to see what's happening here. So come down to Bodhinyana Monastery for a while, hang out with us down there. It's nice, some of you have been down there, you know what it's like. And it's really nice, go on a retreat. You have opportunities here in Malaysia as well to withdraw a little bit. And what a wonderful thing that is. And when you seclude yourself physically, then the second seclusion is the seclusion of the mind. This is spoken about in the sutta as the kaya viveka and then the chitta viveka. Seclusion of the body, seclusion of the mind. One leading to the other one. It doesn't have to be absolute seclusion. One of the reasons you come to the BGF is also because it draws you a little bit out of your ordinary life. It's better to be here than watching things over Zoom. This is not live streamed, is it? No, not live streamed. Because sometimes when you live stream things like we do with our talks in Perth, they're all live streamed. But sometimes you're sitting at home and it doesn't take you out of your ordinary environment. It's helpful, of course, but sometimes even better to come to a Buddhist community and a Buddhist society. So it relies on seclusion, the development of the path. It is more profound when it is secluded. It relies on fading away. What does that mean? It means that in your practice, especially in your meditation, things start to fade away. When you become peaceful, why are you peaceful? It's because the things that are not peaceful are fading. Your thinking mind is thinking a little bit less. Instead of thinking 120 kilometers an hour, only 110. Yay! And then it kind of, sometimes it comes down even more. It gets more and more peaceful. And eventually you come down to zero. Fading away. Gradually the thought fading away. Leading all the way to cessation. The thinking stops completely. And the more things fade away, the more things come to an end, the deeper is your right view. The deeper are all the aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path. What is it that fades away? Your thinking fades away. Your body fades away a little bit. The senses start to fade away. You're not really in touch with the world so much. The hindrances, all the defilements fade away. Certain perceptions, certain ideas in your mind fade away. It becomes more and more peaceful, more and more simple what you are perceiving, what you are staying with. Certain feelings fade away. All the negative feelings fade away. You feel more and more real, more and more alive, more and more positive feelings. So it relies on this process of seclusion, then fading away, then cessation. The deeper it goes, the more powerful is the development of these 8 qualities. And it ripens in letting go. That means that the result of all of this fading away and cessation is that eventually you let go. Because when you see that things cease, when you see that things come to an end, you also understand. You understand the 3 characteristics. You understand impermanence, because things that come to an end are impermanent. That's obvious. Cessation is the highest kind of impermanence, so you understand impermanence fully. But you also understand dukkha, because you see things ceasing, and then you feel happy. So you understand dukkha. And you understand things ceasing. They are outside of your control. They must be non-self, because non-self is defined as those things we can control. If you can't control something, then it's got nothing to do with you. It's not part of the self. So you understand non-self. So it ripens, and then when you understand that, then you let go, because you don't want to hold on to dukkha, so it ripens in letting go. I'm not sure if that makes any sense to you, but that's a brief overview, yeah, of how this sequence of things, how it actually works. And then this sequence is then true for all the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. Yeah, so we see the same thing. You develop right intention or right thought in exactly the same way. Yeah, relying on right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right stillness. All of them relying on seclusion, fading away, cessation, and ripening and letting go. That's how a mendicant with good friends develops and cultivates the Noble Eightfold Path. So this is what you should expect to see in your meditation, even a little bit. I'm sure many of you have seen this a little bit already, because you get a little bit peaceful, you enjoy it a little bit, and then you are kind of on the track to see this a little bit. You just have to keep on doing it more and more. So if you are already enjoying your meditation, congratulations. Yeah, that means you are on the right track. If you are not enjoying your meditation, learn to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's useless. Are you meditating too long? I'm a little bit concerned in the morning, Bobby, that 45 minutes for many people is too long. Yeah, they can't do 45 minutes without kind of experience in dukkha. And so we have to be smart about how you meditate. Yeah, if 20 minutes is enough for you, do 20 minutes. Don't think that you are a bad Buddhist because you only meditate for 20 minutes. No, you are a bad Buddhist if you meditate with dukkha. That's when you are not a bad Buddhist, but a silly Buddhist, yeah, because it doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't lead to anything positive. So do what works for you. Enjoy what is going on. That's the most important thing. Yeah? And then you will start to see this in action. Yeah. You enjoy the meditation. Why? Because certain things are fading away. The dukkha is fading away. That's why you're enjoying it, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be enjoying it. It's dukkha fading away. That's basically why it's nice. And so you start to see this sequence happen. Okay, if it works a little bit, dukkha is fading away. It's really enjoyable. Maybe if I do more, it will be more dukkha fading away. It's a natural conclusion, right? Because you see a little bit, well, if I carry on, maybe it will be even better. And of course it is better. So you go deeper and deeper, more and more fading away, more and more cessation. You understand this already a little bit because you have seen this in your own practice. There's nothing really magical here. It's just a natural evolution of the mind. Extrapolate, take it further. And lo and behold, this path starts to work for you. Isn't this great? It's so inspiring, it's so uplifting. The Buddha gave us access to the highest happiness in the world. And this is what this path is about. The cessation of dukkha, the ending of dukkha, leading to letting go. Letting go is liberation, is freedom. It's getting out of jail. That's what it is all about. So get out of jail, yeah? Don't cling to that jail cell that you're in. If you get put in jail, what is jail like in Malaysia? Is it kind of really harsh conditions in jail? Yeah, harsh. Yeah. So there you are. So you are in the harsh conditions right now. Yeah, you don't even know. You are. So I don't know. I remember being in Singapore. They took me to Changi in jail in Singapore once. What did I do to get to Changi? You went, wow. I was bad. Dodgy, exactly. I know. I didn't. I was actually just teaching the prisoners. So I wasn't put in there because I did something bad. I didn't tell anyone about the bad thing, so they don't know about it. So I kept that secret. No, I don't think I did anything bad in Singapore. I was very scared of Singapore because the authorities there are really kind of, whoa, they kind of, do the slightest thing wrong and they kind of get hold of you. So, but I went to Changi and I found that really unpleasant experience. You go with this enormous concrete steel doors and special passes and one pass after another. And it's like after a while you think, well, I hope I get out of this because if I don't, it's kind of really unpleasant and kind of be imprisoned there for a long time. It's kind of scary. And Singapore is wealthier than Malaysia, so probably Malaysia prison even more scary, than in Singapore. So so don't get out of prison. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, get out of prison as soon as possible. Anyway, and then the Buddha goes on. Here is another way to understand how good friends are the whole of the spiritual path, or the spiritual life. For by relying on me as a good friend, sentient beings who are liable to rebirth, liable to re-old age, liable to re-death, liable to re-sorrow, liable to re-lamentation, liable to re-pain, liable to re-sadness, liable to re-stress, distress, are freed from all of these things. This is another way to understand how good friends are the whole of the spiritual life. Here you are, freed, you are freed from the prison of all of these things. That is what this path is about. So here the Buddha is saying is that the highest kind of spiritual friend is the Buddha himself. Isn't that amazing that you have the Buddha as your spiritual friend? Have you ever thought about that before? Have you ever considered that? You have? Wow, okay, so you are very wise, Not everyone is as wise as that. So sometimes we don't think about the Buddha as our spiritual friend. The Buddha seems to be too far away. The Buddha seems to be living in India 2,500 years ago. He had all of these magical powers. He could fly through the air. How can I be a friend of the Buddha? It seems impossible. But you're missing the point if you don't think you are a friend of the Buddha. If you can be a friend of Bobby, you can be the friend of Buddha. It's easy to be the friend of Bobby. Bobby is kind of very soft and gentle and cuddly, So it's good to be cuddly, right? Cuddly is good. That's meant as a term of praise for Bobby. So be cuddly. The Buddha is a human being like everyone else. You can be a friend of the Buddha. He is there. He is not as different, as alien and other than we think. Of course, in one way it is because he is enlightened. But enlightened human beings are not really all that different from us. You can still talk to them. You can still feel their humanity. They understand you because they have been through all the things that you have been through. There is very little evidence that the Buddha was flying through the air. Maybe he could, I don't know, but there isn't much evidence of that in the suttas. So it's not really that's not kind of what he did usually. He would just be there, he would sit there. Maybe he looked a bit like Ajahn Brahm, I don't know. Maybe not quite like Ajahn Brahm, but something like that. So the Buddha is your spiritual friend. And so approach the Buddha in the right way. Think of him as a human being. Think of him as someone you can communicate with. Oh, dear Buddha, please, I have a question for you. Okay, what is your question? Oh, how do I deal with my husband? How do I deal with my wife? It's hard. This is the kind of question we have, right? This is always, I know because I've been a monk for a long time. I know what people ask in their questions. And that's what they would ask the Buddha as well. And the Buddha would sit down and he would be patient and he would explain to you, be kind or whatever, this is standard questions, standard answers rather. And so there's nothing really magical. The Buddha, it feels the opposite of dangerous and alien. When you meet the Buddha, you feel very safe because the Buddha is very kind. The Buddha doesn't have any anger. He doesn't put you off. He's kind to you. So you feel very safe in the presence of the Buddha. It's only we build it up in our mind that the Buddha is kind of scary. And if you have some defiled thoughts, the Buddha is not going to judge you. If you want to kill the Buddha is going to say, you won't be able to do it anyway, so it's fine. It doesn't matter. You can think those thoughts if you want. The Buddha is just going to have compassion for you. And so there's nothing there to be afraid of. And after a while, you really relax in the presence of someone like the Buddha. The Buddha is your friend, spiritual friend. The Buddha is your teacher. The suttas are the testament from the Buddha. This is what he gave us. This is the greatest gift that one human being can give to another, the access to the path to awakening. The Buddha has given you the greatest gift. Accept that gift. Use it for your own benefit. And then the Buddha, that's what would make the Buddha happy, that you're using the suttas to your own benefit. So I always like to make the point that when the Buddha taught these suttas 2,500 years ago, he did not just teach the people in front of him. The people in front of him was only part of the audience. But the Buddha had this idea of setting in motion the wheel of the Dhamma going on for 2,500 years. And so he was thinking about all of humanity in India, outside of India, at that time, at later times. And because of that, he explained the Dhamma in very universal ways. What we are reading now could apply to any society. There's nothing in here which is specifically Indian or specifically anything. It's a kind of universal teachings. And that's why the Dhamma is so approachable and so easy to understand, because it is explained in such universal terms. It is not limited to any one single society. So think about that. Yeah, the Buddha taught you. The Buddha taught each one of us when he gave these teachings. We are all his disciples. So when you hear the suttas, remember the Buddha had you in mind. He had me in mind, had all of us in mind when he gave these suttas. And that makes the Buddha much closer to you, much more meaningful. You read the word with a sense of reverence, a sense of, wow, I got to be careful how I read this. This is the Buddha giving me a teaching, for goodness sake. He's talking to me. Really? Little me? I'm just this little person. How does he talk to me? Is that true? Yes, he's talking to you. Congratulations for coming and listening to the suttas. Yeah? This is how you come and listen to the Buddha. This is what's going on. Those people who don't come, they're missing out. Yeah? So well done. You have taken the Buddha as a teacher. Some of those others may not have done that. And then, when you rely on the Buddha as your spiritual friend, as your Kalyana Mitta, then those sentient beings who are liable to all of these problems, rebirth. You may have heard I said re-old age. So does that mean that the translation old age is wrong? Not quite, But the point, of course, is that when you start with rebirth, then all of the other things afterwards are also because this is the real problem. The problem is that these things happen again and again and again. It will happen in this life anyway, so that's not the big problem. The big problem that it keeps going on for potentially forever. That's the problem. So if you think you had enough of sorrows and pains and lamentation and sadness already, if you keep on getting reborn, you're going to have much more of it in the future. So this is the way out of all of these problems, starting with rebirth. So this is how you get out of this. This is what we call samsara, rebirth and old age and death, going on and on like this. The Pali word is actually jati, but and some people would translate it as birth, some as rebirth. The point is that it begins with birth, and the reason why it begins with birth is because to show you that this is about the wheel of existence. Otherwise, it should be the other way around. Old age comes first, then death, then rebirth, right? Because rebirth comes after death, but here rebirth comes first. And the reason why, because it shows us that we're talking about that cycle of existence. So this life is already given, it's future life. That is when the real problem arises. So this is why rebirth is the correct way of thinking about this. So this is what we're overcoming, the round of samsaric existence. And that is what this is about. Okay, let's take a short break and then do some quick questions and answers.
Ajahn, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you help to enlighten, whenever before we have a meal, before the sanghas have a meal, then we hold the table. What is the significance? What is the meaning? And then when we kneel down before and you're standing, what is this whole thing?
Okay.
Thank you.
You mean down the bottom before for the meal time when you?
The whole process.
Whole process. Okay.
Yeah. Why we hold the table?
Okay.
Yeah. What is the meaning?
Yeah. All right. So
Thank
the
you.
Idea there is that for a monastic, a monk or a nun, to eat, the food has to be given first of all. We cannot take food unless it has been given. This is one of the rules of monks and nuns. And so this is the process by which we give the food. You hold the table. This is how it is given. There are other ways of doing it, perhaps. That is the traditional way of giving the food. This is how you offer it. And if it hasn't been offered, then we just have to see the food, watch it, but we can't take it. Yeah. So that's a lot of dukkha, a lot of suffering for us. Yeah. Yeah. So this is why you give it in this way. Afterwards, the blessing, the anumodana. Traditionally, this is afterwards when we do a little bit of chanting, yeah, and kind of you kneel down, and we don't have to stand up. We can also sit down if you want to. It's just what we do. That doesn't really matter so much. You don't even have to kneel down if you don't want to. If you want to stand, you can. It's not kind of any specific things that you have to do there. But that is actually comes from the idea. Anumodana means to rejoice, and so it is a teaching that the Buddha and the monks in the old days would give after eating in a house. So you get invited to a house, and after the meal they would give a teaching. Now, over time, that teaching has become just a chanting. Yeah, I mean, we give enough teachings here anyway, right? We're teaching all day, so that's kind of enough. You don't need to teach down the bottom. So it has become like a ritualized way of giving a teaching, almost just by doing chanting here. So I don't think it is great. I think ideally, whenever you are offered food by somebody, you should give a short teaching instead. Yeah, 5-minute teaching about the benefits of giving or whatever, instead of the chanting. But this has kind of become what we do in the Buddhist world, instead of giving a teaching. Yeah. And that's what's going on there. That's what that is about. And then the reason why you kneel on the ground is kind of to show respect, I suppose, for that teaching. Yeah, that's why you do that. And then you don't know what the wording means anyway. If you want to know what the wording means, you can ask me later on about the meaning of the words that we chant, and I will let you know. But because you haven't asked, I'm not going to tell you now. So it was, yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Holy table just means that it is a formal offering to the Sangha. That's really all it means. Yeah. Nothing to do. The idea is that when you give a gift, if you want to give like a gift, like a hut or a monastery or something like that, then you give it to the Sangha of the 4 quarters, the present and yet to come. That's what you're talking about when you say that. So for example, when King Bimbisara of India, when he gave a new monastery called the Veluvana, the bamboo grove, he gave that to the Sangha. He said he give it to the Sangha of the 4 quarters, present and future. Yeah, so the whole Sangha and the whole world is included now and in the future. And that's a good way to give. But I mean, the food downstairs cannot be given to the future Sangha. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that food is for now, and it's for the people who are there. So, but when you give something like a hut or a monastery, then that kind of makes sense. Yeah, can do. Yeah, then you can do that. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Hi, Ajahn.
Hi, hello.
I'm here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I wish to relate back to the Naga story, that the Naga who wanted to cultivate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is Naga from the Deva realm?
Usually the Nagas are considered to be part of the Chatum Maharajika Devas, the 4 great kings, the lowest of the Deva realms.
Okay, the lowest of the Deva realm. So
Yeah.
it is still one notch or notch higher than the human realm.
Yeah, that's usually what it is considered, is my understanding. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, where I'm coming from, right? Because if I heard you correctly,
Yeah.
and I stand guided, so the Naga pleaded to Buddha that he wishes to, or it wishes to cultivate, and Buddha said, you observe the 8 precepts or the 5 precepts?
5 precepts.
5 precepts, and rebirth as a human, then cultivate.
Not cultivate, ordain.
Or ordain.
Yeah, so this is about ordaining here. So you can, so he says, cultivate, keeping the 5 precepts is also a kind of cultivation. So you're already cultivating in the Naga realm, but to ordain, to become a monastic, you have to be human. You can't be a Naga or animal or whatever.
I see.
Yeah.
So, but it could have just, cultivated and enlightened at that Deva realm.
Maybe can a Naga become enlightened? Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. Possibly. Not sure, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
no, because I heard you wrongly, because I thought that it is the Naga needs to be rebirthed as a human in order to cultivate for enlightenment. So it means that it started off as a Deva realm, which is much higher than a human realm, but have to come back to a human realm to cultivate, to obtain,
Yeah.
But here you have clarified it's to ordain, so it's a different context.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Exactly.
For sentient beings, like animals, and if I read right, the Buddha's Metta Sutra says, for those living near and far, born and to be born, so they are also considered sentient beings.
Yeah.
So for these sentient beings who do not have the ability to do merits,
Yeah.
so how will they get the merits to do rebirth? Is it like us as humans, we do a transference of merits to them? And if how, in what is the proper way? Thank
The
you.
proper way is that you have to wear out the bad karma that you have. Because you have a certain amount of bad karma that makes you reborn in the bad realm. And when that karma is worn out, there will be some other underlying karma, good karma, that will make you reborn as a human again. So we all have this very complex karma. Sometimes you just have to wait, bide your time in that difficult realm, like an animal or whatever. And then eventually you come back to the surface again, back to the human realm. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah, good.